Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
I'm Egbert, the owner of this station. Check out my website at egbert.com. That's E-G-G-B-U-R-T, egbert.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
Egbert, don't you know about us on the air? Don't you know how important this is? Because you know why it's important, Egbert?
Our sacred airwaves.
That's right. We have these sacred airwaves. I'm sorry. I'm overusing my drops this morning, John. I have to.
I don't think you're overusing them. But now, please be advised that every time they say sacred airways, I do genuflect, Brad. And at my age, with my lower back, it's hard to do. So, maybe only 5 or 6 reps. Maybe only 5 or 6 reps to show. Because, my stack of dimes back there isn't what it used to be, Brad. I'm the Carly Kloss of backs. You know what I'm saying?
Man,
I used to look really good. Well, anyway.
If this were a drinking game and the drinking signal was Carly Kloss, nobody would be sober by now. They'd all be drunk.
Absolutely not, Brad. By the way, on Twitter, I posted a GIF of her. And heterosexual men, which I'm pretty sure are the only men that listen to this show, just look up Carly Kloss GIFs, and you're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to just stop at that. Okay, yesterday was one of my favorite days of the entire year, April Fool's, okay? Now, let me give you a little background. This is a little thing between John and I, okay? I had some place to go right off the air yesterday, so I had to scoot out of here. And normally the way the thing rolls is John and I do the show between 7 and 8. I record the show between 8 and 8:30. I chop it up, put it up on bjshow.co. Then John comes in and does his thing with all his Instagram posts and things like that. We're like a well-oiled machine. But then what John does is he also goes into the bjshow.co Facebook, not just the bjshow.co website, webpage, and he changes some things around. He cleans up some of my grammar, but more importantly, he puts an in-depth list of what the top 3 are. So in other words, I just type it out. John's top 3, and then he goes in and puts all the stuff in. Well, yesterday I had lots of fun with that, and John goes in and cleans up my actually what he did was, parenthetically, he puts what we really talked about. I put what I thought would be funny, and one of my funny ones was the fact that Jay Ashcroft has essentially taken all the people who signed up to run for Secretary of State because of the fact that they couldn't fit in his shoes and they weren't up to the snuff because he's the current Secretary of State. Okay, which I thought was sort of funny. Okay?
It was very funny, Brad. It was really good.
Okay, and then the other one was about Bill Eigel is getting out of politics because of the fact that he's now become a part of Truth Social. He's gotten a block of stock from Donald Trump. Matter of fact, his ticker symbol being DJT. And Donald Trump is now employing Bill Eigel, and Bill Eigel is going to be in charge of spinning off a video service that's going to be part of the Truth Social network once again, which is sort of like an inside joke. Maybe not necessarily an inside joke, because last week Bill Eigel was somewhat pummeled by some of the mainstream media people saying that he put up a fake video with him in front of the crowd talking about personal property, which the minute I thought to myself, okay, this is fake, but it's funny as hell, right? Okay?
It is so good.
So, and once again, I'm the guy that has this, and see, for those people out there think I'm picking on Bill Eigel. If the election was tomorrow, and I'll be up front and say this, if the election was tomorrow, I'd vote for Bill Eigel for governor.
Yeah. It's easy to make a case for him. Now, first of all, by the way, Brad, I didn't tell you this, but somebody texted me when I was in the car yesterday, and I would only look at my car if I'm at a stoplight or somewhere safe.
Right.
But I looked, and a friend of ours who I won't mention because the text was sent to me, I don't talk about people's names on the air, was like, that this person's, I'll tell you that it's a she. And she said, "Oh my gosh, your post today, your April Fool's thing was the bomb. It was so funny." She goes, "It was so clever." And I said, no. I said, that was Brad. Like, the descriptors of everything, that was 100% you, Brad. It was so good.
See, I love April Fools, and what's gotten interesting about it is, matter of fact, you're Mr. Twitter, okay? Let me pull up a tweet, and I specifically screenshotted this yesterday, so I would be able to essentially find it at a moment's notice, okay? This is Elon Musk yesterday, and I'm going to read it word for word. So many April Fool's jokes that are actually plausible given the increasingly insane real things happened in the world. And I'm going, he's exactly right.
It's so true. Hey, Brad, you talk about it all the time. It's the headlines that were in the Babylon Bee years ago just come to fruition.
Well, it's sort of like if you ever seen this, it's like The Simpsons. It's the same thing with
the Simpsons theory about predicting. I think now, Brad, I only heard this theory like 6 months ago, but I bet a lot of people haven't. So explain it.
The Simpsons, it's not really a theory, it's actually pretty funny. The Simpsons has been on the show for 20 plus years, okay? And there are things on there that are really bizarre. They do crazy, weird script writing and stuff like that. And a lot of times, the crazy crap that was on there from like 10 years ago is now true. I mean, in other words, they're saying bizarre. The writers are sitting around going like, well, this will never happen. And they write it into the show. And 10 or 12 years later, it becomes true. And you can go online. There's a couple of YouTube channels that do this.
Yes.
Where you can go online and you can look at, Simpsons. I think one of them is just essentially Simpsons predictions or something like that. And there's a bunch of different, if keywords, it'll bring up all these YouTube and guys sit around and they edit up the Simpson episodes, and some of them for like 20 years ago, and it's crazy because of the fact
how they have predicted. Now, one of the things is the day that I discovered this, Brad, I went down kind of a deep dive on this, and I read a debunking of a debunking, because the cynics say, yeah, well, there's so many minutes of a show, and if they have X number of ideas a show, their batting average really isn't that good, because everybody could guess a few things right. And then I saw a guy debunk that argument that showed that actually percentage-wise, the number of things that they get right based on total themes and gags is actually really high.
Well, and the thing that's sort of funny about it is that what they're doing is so off the charts. That's why it's funny. But yet, when it becomes reality, you go like, okay, let's think about this for a minute.
Yeah, and to go back to your original post, Brad, there is a chance that Jay Ashcroft will declare that no one can fill his shoes, and he'll do a remix of the George Jones song, who's gonna fill their shoes? You remember that one?
Yes.
Who's gonna play the opera? Well, I won't sing anymore or else we'll get knocked off YouTube, Brad.
The whole crazy thing is, okay, so I did a couple other posts yesterday. I did one where I was in my suit.
And on what website was this?
Well, this is on my Facebook page.
Okay.
Where I essentially said, after 51 years, I'm hanging up the headphones. I'm selling the radio stations, and I've sold the stations to Joy FM, and they're going to run a third Christian channel here in St. Louis. They already run their main one, which is Joy, and then they run their second one, which is Boost, which is rap and hip hop, which is like rap and hip hop God Squad music. And then the third channel that they're going to start with my radio station is going to be a country Christian channel where they're not going to be talking about going to the bar and getting drunk. Okay, so now what's funny is I had 2 or 3 people say, is that really true? Are they going to run? Because I would listen to Christian music if it were country. I go, no, that's BS. Okay. And then my second part of the thing was, what was my second part of the thing? I can't even remember anymore. It's so bizarre. I mean, and people are like I've got people like texting me going like, yeah, you've really gotten rid of the radio?
I just don't get how April 1st comes every year and people fall for it. Now, the show that I watch every morning when we get off the air, while you were chopping this up, whether I'm in the car on like a kid commute or whatever it is, I listen to a macroeconomic show every morning from 8 to 8:30. And one of the guys on the show yesterday ended the show, and he did the gimmick where he goes, I just want to announce that I'm leaving the show. I'm going to run for political office. And then they like cut to black. And I'm like, okay, that's funny. Like, I bet a handful of people believe it. I got on Twitter, Brad, and he had posted the same message. And there are dozens of people, Brad. I started to say hundreds, but there are literally dozens of people that are like, "Oh my gosh, congratulations on your next chapter." And they're dead. Like, how do people fall for this stuff? You know that April Fool's is coming.
Okay, the second one was, I remember what it was. The second one is I'm taking my proceeds from the radio station, and I'm going to start a new club in Sauget. Okay, first hint, like there should be
this one was good. Yes.
There should be a red flag, and it's going to be a dance club where we're going to serve barbecue, and I'm hiring 2 women as my partners, one of them being Sugar, one of them being Fire. Okay, now think about that for a minute. You got stripper names. I think there could easily be around the country, there's probably 14,000 strippers who are named Sugar, and there's probably 6,000 strippers who are named Fire. Okay, now obviously there's a little inside joke there, and from the days of Shelly and I being on the air, Shelly was always talking about Sugar Fire, going to Sugar Fire, going to Sugar Fire. And yet I'd always say to him, Shelly, you're giving all their Sugar Fire. When are they going to start doing some advertising? Oh, real soon. Okay, guess what? Sugar Fire
never
once advertised this radio station. Okay, so let me keep going on my April Fool's Days thing. Okay, so I posted that on my high school graduation website, which is, not website, their Facebook channel. And the running joke about my high school, and I'm an old guy, keep in mind I'm an old guy. This is like the year I graduated, and this is my high school Facebook graduation page, okay? Every single, matter of fact, I used to kid about it with Shelly. I think I've even kidded you about it. Every single time I go to this, one of the stories on there is about, hey, we just played pickleball. We just got done with pickleball. Yes. So I posted this on my high school reunion page, and a couple people, once again, ate it hook, line, and sinker. Oh, my God. And one is a girl that I went to school with from kindergarten through the 12th grade. And Melody, I always had a crush on you. As a matter of fact, I saw her not too long ago. Hadn't seen her in literally 50 years. And I went right up to her and I said, I've always had the biggest crush on you. Because I'm an old guy. I can say things like that now. So I post a couple things on there, and she comes back and congratulates me and asks me about if they're, I swear to God, this is true, asking me, maybe this was tongue-in-cheek on her part, if I was going to have pickleball at my new restaurant in Sauget. And I said, yes, we're in the process of building the pickleball courts, and a couple of the courts will be clothing optional. Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
It got deleted from my high school page.
Oh, no.
They took it down.
What kind of a killjoy would not laugh at it? What kind of a killjoy would delete that?
Once again, people taking life too seriously. Okay, last but not least, this one I'll probably really get in trouble for. Do you know who Scott Drachnik is?
No, I don't.
Scott Drachnik is an interesting guy. He's like a sort of like a very high-profile dude in St. Charles County. He runs the St. Charles County EDC.
Okay. You've talked about him before then.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And once again, I have been at events where I was at an event once. We did Luncheon Legislators, where what the concept is the O'Fallon Chamber, where you go to lunch and it's usually like a legislator or it's some kind of important person from the county, stuff like that. A lot of times, I think when Blaine, well, he still is, when Blaine Luetkemeyer was, did I get that name correct? You're the official.
Yeah, it's Lute. There's no K in Lute. There's only one K in Luetkemeyer, but yes, Luetkemeyer.
Okay. He was a guest a couple times. One time it was Scott Drachnik, and for whatever reason, Scott started picking on me. He's.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
He's the featured speaker, and he keeps referring to like, well, Brad did this. Like, okay, so I go on his Facebook page, and I put, congratulations to Scott, who has been appointed the new executive director of SADD, S-A-D-D, and I put in parentheses, Sauget Area Development District. Scott is going to do what for SADD, what he did for St. Charles County. We'll miss him in the Westplex. And I said, some people are sad about this. I myself am happy. Congratulations, Scott. Like 30 minutes later, bonk, gone. So
wow, because it was fake news.
Right, I got a text from somebody saying, "Oh, Scott's on the warpath about you," and I'm going like, "It's April Fools," I mean, like.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe like, I don't know if you would put an asterisk on it that said April Fool's, but that kind of kills the joke.
But once
right? It's
again,
like, hey, everybody, I'm going to tell you an April Fool's joke.
But
listen,
so I put a bunch of April Fool's stuff up my Facebook page, and the one is the classic 1957 BBC story. Are you familiar with this?
Remind me what it is.
Oh my God, it's the Spaghetti Festival.
No, I don't know that.
Okay. First off, when you think of BBC, what do you think of? Like very...
I think of very stuffy limeys.
Right. Okay. This is like a 4-minute BBC piece that was done in 1957. Okay. There's two interesting things about this. 1957. It talks about an area of Switzerland. Now, if you know your geography, you have Italy, which is that boot that sticks out into the Mediterranean Sea. But just north of Italy, you have Switzerland. And it talks about there's an area of Switzerland. Everybody thinks that all the all the pasta and things like that come from Italy, but there's an area of the Swiss Alps where they grow pasta, and they show the spaghetti on trees, and they're women who are harvesting the spaghetti.
I have seen this, Brad.
And
yes.
then they have the announcers giving this very straight voiceover, and you see the women, walking around, and they've got and then they show the spaghetti being dried in the sun. They have it and then there's a reference to
being harvested.
Right.
And
there's a reference to the fact that how come the spaghetti is all the exact same length, and they talk about through the years they've done this manipulation with the plants where they've essentially crossbred the plants that give equal length spaghetti strands, and then at the end they show the Spaghetti Festival where the people like in Switzerland are sitting at tables and they're bringing out the spaghetti and they're eating the spaghetti, and I'm going like, this is classic. Now the interesting part of that is keep in mind this is 1957. I did my research on this, and this was true. Part of the thing he says in this thing was because they said this was April, April Fool's, April 1st, you're thinking, okay, that's just coming out of the winter. You're just barely in the spring, and they're in the northern hemisphere, so they have the same seasons we do, as opposed to like the southern hemisphere, which has the opposite. So he says in there that due to a very mild winter that they haven't had in years. And I thought to myself, hold on, this is 1957. Nobody was talking about global warming back there.
Yes,
I looked it up, and he's exactly right. Europe had, in this particular area of Europe, had a very mild winter in 1957.
So it's perfect. It seemed even more legitimate.
Yes, because of the fact that I'm going like, okay, it's like I've said this before, and I get mad about this. People talk, global climate change. Okay. If you look at the St. Louis area, the two hottest decades are in the 30s and the 50s, the 1950s, okay? And I think the hottest temperature ever recorded in St. Louis, officially recorded, was in 1954. And once again, did you have a lot of diesel trucks back in 1954? No, you didn't. They were mostly gasoline back then. Go back into the 30s, okay? There weren't that many cars. There weren't that many trucks. We didn't have, airplanes were very rare back in the 30s. You had some air travel, but very, very limited. Most of the planes were very small. It was just, there wasn't that much junk as far as stuff in the air. And it's going like, okay, so if we're going to this global warming thing, how come 1930s, we're talking almost 100 years ago. How come the hottest decades were way back when, were before we had all the problems we have now? Which, once again, anyway, that's my April Fool's thing. And for all those people that I offended, can I just tell you one thing?
Mm-hmm.
Stick it sideways, okay?
Stick it sideways, Brad.
And for one other thing, if you make fun of me and I see you in person, you know what I'm going to do?
You're going to go on Facebook.
You shall feel the pythons, brother. And you shall feel the pythons, brother.
That's all I'm going to say. Okay. I'm sorry, John. I've lost it this morning.
No, do not apologize. I was going to say stick it sideways up your tailpipe, but that's kind of borderline.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Compest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest. John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?